Something strange is happening to a lot of people right now. On paper, life is fine. There is no crisis, no major loss, no obvious problem to solve. Bills are paid, relationships are stable, health is okay, work is manageable, and yet you wake up and the day ahead does not excite you anymore. You finish things, but there is no real satisfaction. You have options, but none of them pull you forward. It is not sadness exactly. It is not burnout. It is more like a quiet hum of emptiness beneath a life that looks perfectly fine from the outside. If you have ever thought to yourself, I should be happier than this, why does nothing feel like enough? My life is okay, but something is missing. Then this episode is for you. I'm here because I have felt this too, and I know I'm not the only one. So let us try to understand this emptiness. What is happening in the brain? How the mind adapts, and why comfort alone never makes life meaningful. I'm Dinesh Kumar. This is the DK Talks. The invisible problem. Here is the first thing worth understanding. The flatness you are feeling, it is not laziness, and for most people, it is not a lack of gratitude or weakness either. It is usually not clinical depression, it is something else. It is what happens when a human mind built for a very different world is asking to function inside modern life. We are struggling because the environment we live in does not match what our mind actually needs to feel engaged, to feel alive. And because there is no visible crisis, we assume the problem must be us. We think, I have everything I need. Why do I still feel this way? But that question hides an assumption that having everything you need is supposed to make you feel alive. That is not how the mind works. Survival and aliveness are not the same thing. You can have safety, comfort, and convenience and still feel like something essential is missing because something is. The neuropsychology of emptiness. Let me slow this down and explain what is actually happening inside the brain. There is a chemical called dopamine. Most people think dopamine is about pleasure. It is not. Dopamine is about anticipation. It is about wanting, not having. It rises before the reward, not after you get it. It is the feeling of something good might happen if I move toward this. The system evolved for survival. It pushed our ancestors to looking for food, to explore, to take risks, to move toward the unknown. Dopamine is what makes effort feel worth it. Now here is where things change. In modern life, we are surrounded by dopamine triggers all the time. Notifications, feeds, snacks, clicks, deliveries, endless entertainment. Every scroll, every ping, every small bit of novelty gives the brain a little dopamine spike. And when this happens again and again, hundreds of times a day, the brain does what it always does. It adapts. The baseline slowly rises. What used to feel rewarding now feels normal, and what once felt interesting start to feel boring. Quiet things stop working. Slow rewards barely registers anymore. Ordinary life starts to feel dull. So the brain starts asking for more stimulation just to feel okay. This is why nothing feels exciting anymore. Not because your life got worse, not because you are ungrateful, not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain has trained to expect more stimulation than real life can actually provide. You are not broken. Your nervous system has adapted to the environment you live in, and that adaptation has a cost. Hedonic adaptation. There is another layer to this. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. It is the brain's tendency to return to a baseline level of satisfaction no matter what improves in your external life. You get a raise, It feels good for a short while, then it becomes normal. You move to a nicer place, it feels exciting at first, then it fades. You buy the thing you really wanted, the pleasure lasts a few days, then it disappears. This is not a flaw, this is how the brain is designed. The brain constantly recalibrates to whatever your current reality is. What once felt like a reward slowly becomes new normal, and the new normal stops feeling like anything at all. This is why more never works for very long. More money, more comfort, more success, more stuff. Each upgrade feels good briefly and then quietly blends into the background. And if you keep chasing the next upgrade, hoping this one will finally be enough, you end up on a treadmill that never really stops. Not because you are greedy, but because this is how the brain processes improvement. It does not store progress as lasting happiness. It observes it as the new baseline and then starts looking for the next thing. Overstimulation and attention fragmentation. Now, let us talk about what constant stimulation does to the quality of your inner life. The modern world is loud, not just in sound, but in input. Every app, every platform, every notification, all of them are competing for a slice of your attention. And because the systems are designed to keep you engaged, they feed your brain a steady stream of fast, novel, easy content, the kind your brain finds almost impossible to resist. So what happens? Your attention starts to fragment, your mind becomes restless, and your ability to sit with slow, quiet, meaningful things gradually fades. Boredom used to be normal. There were gaps in the day, empty moments, nothing happening. And in those gaps, something important used to occur. Reflection, daydreaming, a kind of mental wandering where insight and creativity quietly emerged. Most of that is gone now because the moment boredom shows up, even for a second, there is always something to reach for, a phone, a video, a scroll. So the mind never truly rests. It never gets the space it needs to digest experience, to process emotion, to simply be. And this is one of the reasons modern life feels so hollow. You are always consuming, but you are rarely absorbing. Meaning versus pleasure. There is an important distinction most people never really think about. Pleasure and meaning are not the same thing. Pleasure is what feels good in the moment. A nice meal, a funny video, a comfortable evening. Meaning is different. Meaning usually comes from effort, from difficulty, from doing something that matters, even when it is uncomfortable. Pleasure asks, does this feel good right now? Meaning asks, does this connect to something bigger than me? And here's the strange part. A life filled with pleasure but empty of meaning almost always feels hollow. And a life filled with meaning, even if it includes struggle, tends to feel alive. This is not a moral judgment. It is not about being disciplined or virtuous. It is simply how the human mind works. We are not wired to feel fulfilled by comfort alone. We are wired to feel fulfilled by contribution, by growth, by effort that actually counts. When life becomes too smooth, when everything is easy and nothing is really asked of you, something inside starts to shrink. Not because something is wrong, but because something essential is missing. Comfort versus purpose. Here is where it goes a little deeper. Modern life has done something no other era has managed to do. It has made comfort the default. Most of us don't have to struggle just to survive. We don't have to build things with our own hands. We don't face physical danger, real scarcity, or constant uncertainty. And on one level, that is an incredible achievement. But on another level, it creates a quiet problem. Because human beings were never designed for a frictionless life. We are designed to overcome obstacles, to solve problems, to move toward something difficult and feel the satisfaction that comes from progress. When you remove friction entirely, you don't get happiness, you get apathy. You get a life where nothing is especially hard, but nothing feels especially meaningful either. And this is important. Struggle is not the enemy of happiness. In many cases, it is where happiness comes from, not suffering for its own sake, but choosing challenge over comfort, effort directed towards something that actually matters. This is what mind needs to feel engaged with life. The modern trap. So here is the trap. Modern life gives you everything your survival brain wants: safety, comfort, entertainment, convenience, but it quietly removes everything your deeper self needs: challenge, meaning, silence, depth. And because nothing is obviously wrong, you start assuming the emptiness must be your fault. You tell yourself you should be grateful that other people have it worse, that maybe something is wrong with you, but you're not broken. You are a human being living in an environment that was not designed for human flourishing. It was designed for consumption, engagement, and convenience. And those things are not the same as aliveness. The reframe. So, what do we do with this? I'm not going to tell you to quit technology, move to the mountains, abandon modern life. That is not realistic and it is not necessary. But something important changes when you see the situation clearly. When you stop blaming yourself for feeling empty and start understanding why the emptiness is there. Because the mind needs certain things to feel alive. It needs something to walk toward, something that feels meaningful, not just comfortable. It needs real rest, not distraction disguised as rest. It needs depth, time to think, to feel, to process. And yes, it needs friction, not pain, not suffering for its own sake, but the kind of healthy resistance that makes effort feels like actually counts. When those things are missing, no amount of comfort will fill the gap. But when they are present, even in small doses, something starts to wake up inside. You don't have to overhaul your entire life. You can start by asking a few simple questions. Where is the challenge in my life right now? Where is the meaning? Where is the depth? And if the answer is nowhere, that is okay. At least now you know where you are starting from. I think a lot of people are walking around with this quiet emptiness and no one is really naming it. Everyone looks fine, everyone is functioning, but there is this shared sense that something is not quite working. And maybe the first step is just saying that loud. This feeling is real. It is not weakness. It is not ingratitude. It is what happens when a world gives us comfort, convenience, and distraction, but quietly takes away meaning, challenge, and depth. I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring this out myself. But I do believe this. When you understand why you feel the way you feel, you stop fighting yourself and you start building a life that actually fits how your mind works, not someone else's idea of a good life, yours. If this episode put words to something you have been feeling, share it with someone who might be feeling the same thing. Sometimes just knowing you are not alone is the most important thing. And I would genuinely like to hear from you. What does this emptiness feels like for you? And what if anything has helped? Leave a comment. I do read every single one. If you found value in this conversation, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps the channel reach more people who might need this. Take care. I will see you in the next one.